everyone, welcome back to my channel. My name is Aime and I love talking about the environment. So today I'm going over 10 things that I think are in for 2024, or I personally want to be in, and then 10 things that we need to leave behind in 2023. So the first thing that I think is in for 2024 is doing your best. I don't know about you guys, but I know when I first got into the environmental movement, I definitely had a lot of climate anxiety. Especially if you're the type of person who watches videos like this, you're probably doing a lot for the environment. And I just want you to know, as long as you're doing your best, you're doing amazing. Number 2 is doing one stop at a time. I think sometimes with how social media can get, you just kind of end up comparing yourself to where other people are in their climate journey, and you might see some people who have absolutely zero unsustainable products in their life, and you're like, how did they do that? Probably just one product at a time. There's a lot of sustainable stops I've made over the years. Usually it's just once something runs out or once something is broken, I'll replace it with something more sustainable. Number 3 is shopping secondhand. I feel like this has never been out. Ever since Macklemore dropped Thrift Store, shopping secondhand has been really popular. I just think specifically shopping secondhand as a first resort is something that I need to see more of, and I want to see more of when I need to buy something, especially if it's not urgent. For example, my Halloween costume for this year was Cowboy Barbie, and I knew that months before Halloween, so I was just, every time I go to a thrift store, I would check to see if they have a cowboy hat, and one day they had a cowboy hat. If you need something, especially if it's not urgent, then see if you can get it secondhand before buying it firsthand. Number 4 is shopping local. A lot of these are honestly just habits that I want to incorporate more this year, but I also think everyone should try to incorporate. And the reason I really think shopping local is something we need to do more of has to do with kind of supply chains and just trying to avoid putting money in the pockets of people like Jeff Bezos, other rich people that I can't think of right now because I have a bad memory. Shopping local is kind of a way to avoid that, and then you also benefit your local economy. Number 5 is, this is probably my favorite one on this list, libraries and third spaces. I think this is something more people were talking about this year, and it made me so happy because this is something that I am very passionate about. Libraries are great to go and work at. Oftentimes they'll have different events, especially if you have kids. I know as a kid, I would go to the library after school every single day. You can check out physical books obviously, but also movies, music. Some libraries also have vinyls. There's so many things you can do at a library. Love libraries. And then overall, just third spaces, I want to see more of it. Everything from courtyards, parks, just places where people can gather without having to spend money. I want to see more of it, and I really hope as a society we're moving in that direction. Number 6 is BDS, which stands for boycott, divestment, sanctions. 2023 was a year where more people were kind of opening their eyes to all of the horrible things going on around the world and trying to see what exactly they can do to make a difference. And I think boycotting specifically is something I want to see more of this year, and also trying to pressure our politicians and corporations to do the right thing and to not themselves support things like genocides going on around the world, in Palestine. I think especially with Starbucks, they really got their frappuccinos handed to them last year, and I think a lot of people were starting to realize oh my god, if our money actually does make a difference. That's just something that it was so great to see last year, and I want to see more of this year. Next one is, a lot of people don't want to hear this, but reducing meat consumption. It's just facts. Just especially red meat just has such a terrible impact on the environment, not to mention obviously the ethical violations that it brings about. I'm not saying everyone has to go vegetarian or vegan, just reducing the amount of meat that you intake gonna do just wonders in terms of your carbon footprint. If you can just eat half as much meat as you ate last year, that's great, and I love that for you. Number 8 is increasing bike infrastructure. This one might be a little selfish, just because since I moved to Minneapolis, I became a bike girly, and I want to see more bike infrastructure just specifically for me. So recently in my neighborhood, they put in a bike lane, a protected bike lane, and it's the most beautiful thing ever. And now I'm just can we do this on every street? Thing is, I don't hate cars 100%. I use ride shares to get certain places, or if I'm going out, I'm not gonna bike in the middle of the night in a mini dress. But I just think we need to like design cities to where driving isn't the only thing that you can do 24/7, because it shouldn't be your only option in terms of transportation. Next one is local action, and this is kind of a broad. I feel like a lot of these could be their own videos, this specifically being one of them. I want to see more people taking action in their local communities, whether this is going to protest, shopping local, voting locally, getting involved in their local politics and their local like community events. That's kind of what I'm talking about here, and that's something I personally want to do more this year, which is why I have it on this list. When it comes to a lot of like social issues, people will look at like a national scale and they'll be like, oh, there's nothing you can do. And it's like, well, duh, it's really hard to like do anything on a national scale unless you're like AOC. But there's so much that you can do in your local community to make it better. And starting local, I think, is how you get big change. Number 10 is politicians sticking to their political party even after they get elected. You know who I'm talking about. I guess that one was more of like a things that I don't want to see in 2024. Speaking of which, here are the 10 things that are out. Number 1 is climate doom. I think we just need to be more positive, and we need to look at all the things that are going right. I think it can just be really demotivating at the end of the day, and I just want to see more positivity. There's this Instagram account, I think it's called like Climate News or Positive Climate News or something. I'll link it down below. Like they have like Good News Friday or something where they just post positive stories. A little bit of like pragmatism is important. Making sure that we're still keeping up the momentum is great, but just completely being doom and gloom, I don't think is super helpful. Number 2 is private jets. Obviously, if you're watching this video, you probably don't own a private jet. Not saying you guys are broke, but you guys probably care about the environment. All of the excuses, specifically Swifties, make about like the private jet usage is just, I'm tired. We just know. There's no reason for someone to be using a private jet. Number 3 is blaming individuals, and this might be contradictory considering the point above where I was blaming people like Taylor Swift for private jet usage, but I'm more talking about like little something was wrong with the toilet, and this maintenance guy had to come in and fix the toilet for an hour. So this might be a little contradictory considering the last one was blaming rich people for using private jets, but what I mean is not focusing so much on individual action, which I'm not saying it's not important. I think it's important. I think, like I said in the start of the video, doing your best is really important. We really need to focus on kind of more broader systemic changes if we want to see kind of the fastest changes being made that are great for the environment. We shouldn't call out individual people unless it's like Taylor Swift and her private jets, and I think it's kind of better to emphasize more systemic and bigger changes that we can make in society that benefit everyone. Number 4 is Shen. I don't understand how it's still a thing. It just baffles my mind. I remember seeing a comment where someone had commented on the Shen haul and they said, oh, this was made by like children, and then someone replied, this is not funny at all, someone replied, oh, tell them thank you, they did a good job. Like, that's the kind of society we live in where people are joking about like child slavery. Number 5, kind of similar, is Tik Tok Shop. Maybe it's a good thing just because it's keeping me away from TikTok, but I'm just kidding. Tik Tok Shop is just such a menace to society, and I'm just so sick and tired of it. I've never bought anything from Tik Tok Shop. Same with like Instagram or Facebook. All of these like social media like shopping integrations, no. It just makes going on TikTok so obnoxious. Same with like the trends of like, oh, Amazon made me buy it, or things that you need from Amazon. Because like, in all honesty, if this was something you needed, you would think of it. If it was really a necessity, it would have come up in your brain before you saw it on TikTok. Number 6 is lawns. I'm sick and tired of lawns. This is something that I'm not a fan of like anymore. Instead, what we should do is definitely more like native grasses and just really pretty yards that have like flowers and trees and just look like nature instead of looking like golf courses. Let's just get rid of lawns and plant native grasses everywhere. Number 7 is highways. I feel like highways are like my nemesis. I cannot stand highways. Obviously they're necessary to like get people between cities. For example, like driving from here to Chicago going 30 miles an hour would probably take like 10 days. So I get the highway in that situation, you know, it makes sense. I mean, a train would be better for sure, but you know, what I don't understand is highways that are in cities or even like in the suburbs, because it's just so sad. A lot of highways actually cut through, and they were purposefully made to cut through black and brown neighborhoods and just really destroy the local community. And I actually have a video about car infrastructure and walkability, and I kind of talk a little bit more about that. I don't think you should be able to go through a city going like 50-60 miles per hour. It does not make sense to me. And yeah, number 8 is greenwashing. I am sick and tired of greenwashing. I feel like 2023 was a year of greenwashing from politicians with like COP28, Hot Mess Express. Like there was so much like greenwashing and like people using the climate crisis to advance their non-environmental agendas, and it was like side eye. Greenwashing is something I don't want to see in 2024. I want to see corporations, politicians, governments actually doing what they say they're going to do. Number 9 is more fashion brands, like sustainable fashion brands specifically. So what I mean by this is like, I feel like we have enough like fashion brands that are like sustainable fashion brands, and we need to, I don't know, do we need another one? Do we need another like sustainable basics brand? I don't think so. I feel like we should move more towards the model of recycled materials or just like vintage, like secondhand, stuff like that. Like I said earlier, secondhand I think is in. If we're gonna do sustainable fashion, we need to like include plus size people, because they're the ones that struggle the most in terms of getting clothing anyway. So I get that, but I don't know, this honestly, this might be like a climate hot take, but I don't think we need any more like sustainable clothing brands. And then number 10, I already brought this up a little bit, the suburbs. It's one of those things that I will never stop talking about how much I don't like the suburbs. Especially like this year, this was like my year of like learning more and more about like urbanism and how like city design impacts like communities and the environment. I don't understand the point of the suburbs. And I'm not saying I don't understand the point of like rural living. You have like places in Europe where there are like small towns. Like I'm not against small towns. Like small towns are one thing, but the suburbs, the American suburbs are just so silly. So yeah, I'm not saying like completely demolish like small towns. We can definitely design towns to be more just make more sense for human beings. I think that was all of the things. There was probably a lot of hot takes in this video, and let me know other things that you think are in for 2024 or out for 2024. What do you want to see more of? What do you want to see less of? But that being said, that was it for today's video. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed it, don't forget to like and subscribe. Also, check out my Patreon if you want to support the channel. I feel like I'm very optimistic for this year, and I'm really excited to see where things go in terms of activism and just making the world a better place. But that being said, thank you for watching, and I'll see you in my next video. Bye everyone.